Hey folks, Seth Campbell here with the new Segue Says podcast. This week we're going to do one that I play all the time because I've found a great way to open a set. Particularly because the second of the tunes is very well recognized and the first being an instrumental. For those who do recognize it, it's great, and for those who don't, they just consider it an intro and are not distracted by it, if you will. So, the two songs this week are Ignorant Boy, Beautiful Girl by Loney Dear and Brave by Sara Bareilles. Brave, of course, is inescapable these days, but whether or not you know Loney Dear depends, I guess, on whether or not you're listening to the best of the songwriting pop music to come out of Scandinavia. Loney Dear is the stage name of a Swedish singer-songwriter whose real name I can't pronounce, so I'm not going to try for fear of offending my Scandinavian friends. And he writes these very unusual songs that sort of fuse voices with lots of different instruments and some electronic sounds and ambience. And Ignorant Boy, Beautiful Girl is one of my favorites. And I know it, strangely enough, because an old teacher, a longtime teacher, and dear old friend of mine, Vardanov Sepian, when he would tour with his jazz band, he'd come back to Boston after he moved out to L.A., this would often be the first song they'd play just to kind of tune, sound check, etc., to get the show started. It's a really easy tune on some levels and also kind of difficult on other levels. So I'm just going to examine this one briefly because it's a really interesting song, and then I promise we'll get to the Sara Bareilles for the Sara Bareilles fans who are sitting there watching this saying, "Why aren't you talking about Brave yet?" Just deal with me. So, Ignorant Boy, Beautiful Girl is originally in the key of B, but that really doesn't matter for the way I'm going to use it, and I'll show you why that is, in just a second. But I play it instrumentally for these purposes, but there are vocals on Loney Dear's version. Mainly, a number of voices doing this. This is a melody, and this is actually pretty difficult to do, so hopefully this will work. And then it loops. It's easy to run out of breath doing that. His version sounds much more clean than mine. I realize that sounds pretty simple, but just try doing it yourself. I dare you. It's pretty tough. And then, somewhere in the background, Loney himself is singing lyrics that are kind of garbled and slightly difficult to tell what they are, and impossible to find online because when you look up the lyrics, for some reason there's all these words for verses and choruses written that just aren't in the song, so I don't know what's going on there, but it's something like, he's the ignorant boy with the ignorant style. She's a beautiful girl. He's the ignorant boy with the beautiful girl. You know, just kind of looping the same thing while the other voices continue the melodies. Now that melody is the key point of this because, like I said, if you were to play this instrumentally, you'd have to play that on the piano, which is also slightly difficult, although it's a little easier. Very diatonic, very straightforward. The chords are really simple. The melody is chord tones most of the way. So the great thing about this tune, and that is basically it. It loops, and in the original version, the instruments build and the soundscape build. I really recommend listening to the original version by Loney. It's on his album Citadel Band, and it is mesmerizing. It's so simple, yet somehow there's something about it that absolutely just washes over you and completely encapsulates your mind. You'll have to hear it yourself. Just trust me. But the great thing about it being so simple is it's easy to transpose into just about any key. So, if I wanted to do it in F, if I was playing a song in F, and it's also, because it's so simple, you could do it in multiple different ways, either very mellow, or really you could build up to sort of a rock and roll feel. And so, because it's so simple, it's extremely malleable. You can do so many different things with it. And these are just a few of the options. Now, I'm going to set this aside just for a moment and talk about Brave by Sara Bareilles, which, of course, is one of the most inescapable songs between radio play, commercials, and everybody who goes to an open mic night sings it. So, the original version was, of course, way too high for me to sing it. Honestly, I can't do that. So, I had to bring it way down. I actually brought it down from B flat to D flat, or C sharp. And that's almost a full octave down. And for me to sing it, because that way, not only is it well within my voice range, I could probably sing it a little higher, but I couldn't emote the same power that she does in her key, in a higher key. So, this is, of course, a first chorus for you. You can be amazing, can turn a phrase into a weapon or a drug. You can be the outcast, or be the backlash of somebody's lack of love. Or you can start speaking now. Nothing's gonna hurt you the way the words do when they settle beneath your skin. Kept on the inside, no sunlight, sometimes a shadow wins. But I wonder what would happen if you say what you want to say and let the words fall out. 'Cause honestly, I want to see you be brave with what you want to say and let the words fall out. 'Cause honestly, I want to see you be brave, I want to see you. And then there's, sort of a cycle, tagline, outro for the chorus, or whatever you'd call that. But again, that's one I am absolutely certain you have heard in some context. I can be that sure. It's that ubiquitous. So, where do these two songs come together? Well, as some of you may know, I play at a piano bar a lot, and they like to do the current hits, and Brave by Sara Bareilles is a very popular song, a very popular request, and it's upbeat, it sets a tone, so it's great to open a set with. It's great for that to be the first vocal song. But I figure, because there are a lot of piano players out there, a lot of piano bars, a lot of different places, I figure I've got to do something a little different on occasion when I play Brave. Just so people, they'll hear the song they love, but give it something a little unique, something that they haven't heard with it before. And so I thought, well, how about an instrumental intro? Because I love songs that do long instrumental intros, back when I was when the Brew was still playing. They had a number of songs with extended intros that they played, and I always loved that because the audience was never quite sure what the song was until the intro somehow morphed into that piece that we all knew. So I decided to do something to that effect with Brave, and I thought, okay, very diatonic, sort of this. Now, I believe I was improvising at one point, and I started playing over the Brave chords. I was playing the Ignorant Boy, Beautiful Girl melody. Which is a little different. The chords are a little different, but it works. So I thought, okay, these two songs, sort of same kind of same tempo, both pretty diatonic. And as I mentioned, Ignorant Boy, Beautiful Girl is pretty easy to put in any key when you're doing it instrumentally. So I thought, okay, maybe if I just start with that as an intro. So I put Ignorant Boy, Beautiful Girl in D flat. And so it seemed very easy because, it always resolves to that one. And Brave starts on the one. So it's basically just sliding in smooth. Now, usually when I do this, I'll only go once, maybe twice through the Ignorant Boy, Beautiful Girl progression. On rare occasions, I'll extend even further. But just to give you a full picture, I'm going to go a couple times through, or a few times through, just showing the different dynamic ranges and how you could build this up if you want to, and how you could eventually slide into Brave. And again, I think this is a great way to start a set, because you come from nothing, use this brief instrumental intro to build something way up, and then you go into the big hit that everybody knows, and they'll think of that as the first song anyway. So, this is how that would go. Established that you're staying on this one chord. That's weird. My sustain pedal's been doing this thing lately where after I play a certain number of notes, whatever it was sustaining stops. I'm working on fixing that because it makes things like that really annoying. But usually before singing, I'll usually throw in a couple little left-hand bass riffs just to establish this is where we are now. You can be amazing and turn a phrase into a weapon or a drug. You can be the outcast to be the backlash of somebody's lack of love, etc. And that's usually the point once you start singing where the crowd goes, "Oh, that's what he's doing." And usually, a lot of times people just think I made that intro up, and they'll say, "Hey, that was a cool intro you played. Was that just improvisation?" I said, "No, absolutely not. This is this great song called 'Ignorant Boy, Beautiful Girl' by Loney Dear." And hopefully that will get them to look up that song as well. Because like I say, you have to hear the original to appreciate fully where it's coming from. But another approach to this, and I used to do this a lot more than I do now. I've tended to stop doing it just because that really wears your hand down. If you're playing one note, you can use the sort of the spider fingers trick. But if you're doing multiple notes, you have to use the whole hand and the wrist, and so it gets tired out. So you don't want to overwork that. But if you're feeling confident you can do it, you can continue at the very end of the last chorus of Brave. You can switch to playing 'Ignorant Boy, Beautiful Girl' again and keep singing the tag return of Brave, which would sound something like this. And this is fun if you just want to sort of extend the jam a little bit. So, I wanna see you, I just wanna see you, I wanna see you, I wanna see you be brave. I wanna see you be brave. I wanna see you be brave. Of course, you can cycle that as many different times as you want to. You can go back to the Brave progression. You could keep this quarter note thing going. If you want, I don't like to do that, but it's totally up to you. And so there's a number of different ways you can use that, and that's, once again, the great thing about the cycle of 'Ignorant Boy, Beautiful Girl' being very short and very simple, is you can use it in so many different ways for anything. And basically, if you're in a band, you wanna test the levels, make sure all the instruments are in tune with the other. Figure out what key your first song is in. It'd help if it's a major, but I'm sure you could find a way of resolving to a minor. And you're gonna say first song's in E, and you didn't have time to sound check, but you wanna test the levels of all the instruments. You think you've got everything, but you want the sound man to just hear the various levels. Just before starting that first song, just go. You can have the vocalist do the if you have a vocalist, or you can just have guitars, anything really. That's not the intro to a real song, that's just something I've made up, but you can do that for just about anything. So it's a song, and you can also use it as a tool for a number of different purposes, and sometimes it's just fun to do a segue with it, which is what I do with Brave. So hopefully that's given you a little more insight. Hopefully you've enjoyed this week's podcast. Have a great holiday weekend, everybody, and I will see you next week.